Y'all can't see me right now. It was like a heavyweight 15-round fight. Yes, I'm the business, but now I'm going to be the business.
He's doing the Lister blister, the Sean Kemp when when he dunked on Lister and he does the points right in his face. As always, we like to start off every episode with a moment in time. And today, Rasheed, our moment in time is March 4th, 2004. What in the world of Rasheed Wallace occurred on March 4th, 2004?
That's a good one. You got me there.
Yeah, the past couple have been pretty obvious because they've been, if it's in June or May, that's probably a conference finals. March is during the regular season. 2004, you had just made a move to Detroit from Portland. So this very day was the night that you returned to Portland for the first time after the trade. And it was on national television, TNT. You've got fans with, you couldn't see it right there, but there was someone that took a Sharpie and wrote Sheed on his forehead. You've got the fans showing out wearing different uniforms. Oh, here it is. Here's the guy with the sheet across his forehead. Ridiculous. I just wanted to get your thoughts about, there's a Carolina jersey. You still had a lot of love, it appears, in Portland when you returned, despite being on the enemy's side. Do you remember walking back in the building for the first time, playing in front of the fans? Were you nervous, excited? Were you trying to bust their ass? You look happy. Tell me about it.
I do. It was fun. It was fun. Going against guys who was my teammates, 3 weeks ago, knowing them, and now here I am playing in this same building that I've called home for, 6 seasons, and now I'm the visitor. It was fun. I knew they were going to be excited. I was excited a little bit as well. I knew they were going to be excited, though. So I knew Rube was going to come out. Zach was going to come out on 100. Everybody. So I told them, I said, look, I told Chauncey, Rip, and the guys, I said, don't worry about me. I said, they expecting me to go full-fledged, like, all right, I'm going to try to get 30 tonight against these guys. No. I said, we going to play regular. If you hit me, I said, I guarantee you what they're going to do. They're going to come with a double as soon as I touch the ball. And what happened? Came double as soon as I touched the ball. And I'm just diamond all over the place. But no, it was a good game, man. And that was that right there showed me some of the character of that Pistons team. Because not only did, we stuck together for the win, but they were actually saying to me, in the locker room, like, all right, yeah, we're going to go out here and get this one for you. Hey, this is my first really road game with these guys. And they telling me they're going to go out and get this W for me. I'm like, oh, shit. Let's go at it then. I'm with it. These my guys right here. I'm with it. Let's get it.
So the stars aligned since it was March, or the beginning of March. It was shortly after the trade deadline, which I assume was in the middle of February, because that's when it traditionally falls. And it sounds like this is one of the first road games, and it just happens to be in Portland. There was footage of you earlier in this video showing up to the arena in what appeared to be a Bonzi Wells jersey. Like, come on, man. And look at that. You got banners still in the crowd. The very first shot that you take is a long two. That's nothing but net. Business as usual. As always with you, my friend, no matter what the situation is. It could be the most volatile atmospheres, Malice at the Palace, or a return to Portland. And it is just, give me the rock. It's time to bust their ass. But hey, fun night back here. What was the result of this game? Because we're watching back the highlights. Did you guys win this?
Yeah, we ended up winning. And see, one thing I told Zach, not necessarily just Zach, but like with a lot of my guys who were my rookies, I always told them, like, look, I'm playing against them. Like, look, you got 3 quarters to do whatever you're going to do to get as many points as you're going to get. You got 3 quarters to score 100 or 1,000 points, whatever the case may be. But that 4th quarter, I got to get this dub, fam. I got to get this dub. Ain't nothing personal.
Yeah, that is the consistency of the NBA regular season for the most part is, first 3 quarters going through the motions, and then in the 4th it gets turned up. So there's a mutual understanding and or unwritten rules that go ahead, do your thing, but in the 4th, there's going to be hell to pay. And usually with this Pistons team, what we're seeing here, there usually is. So that is what we call a moment in time. Nice to see a younger version of Rasheed there. Look at that. You got the headband going. You look fit and shape. Little does this Rasheed know he's about to be an NBA champion here in the next year or so. And I'm sure a lot of these guys were excited for you when that moment came. So cool to see. All right. We're filming this on a Monday, shortly after the weekend. And just yesterday, the Dallas Mavericks have reached the endgame of their season. They are in a position now that if they don't win their final games and get a whole bunch of help, man, they're not only going to miss the playoffs, they're going to miss the play-in tournament completely. Now, it benefits them because they can retain their pick likely if they lose these games and move up. I'm not really interested in that. I'm more curious as to your thoughts and opinion, Sheed, on how the hell did a team with arguably the next up-and-coming face of the NBA, maybe after Giannis, it could have been Luka, is paired next to one of the clutchest, most dynamic, gifted scorers and all-stars that the game has ever seen, and they are this bad. They are losing to teams that would barely be favored against G League squads. And how is this happening? What do you think is going on in the locker room without physically being there? There has to be some explanation more than just the basketball, right?
Man, I don't. Well, one thing I can tell you what it is also is they definitely need some help. That's why they went and got Kyrie. Luka's the only scorer. If Luka is out the game, then it's like shit. Anybody can score. It's all right. I better get my shots before he come back in. You got a bona fide shooter and Reggie Bullock. But, I mean, like, and Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. But outside of that, I mean, you really look at it. If Luka go out, that's their only two scorers. Kyrie's going to do what Kyrie do. I'm not excluding him from, the point production, but we all know Luka is the man on that shit. You know what I mean? So if he goes out, where's the rest of his point production coming from? Kyrie can't do it by himself. So he has a couple of shooters out there, but they need more. You got to look at the other teams, the other good young teams in the West that are geared up for these playoffs. They got good bench players. They need more. You need more in your starting five. What they're doing now is playing for their life. As you just said, it's almost kind of sort of like the NCAA tournament, one and done. If we lose like one or two of these last maybe like 5 or 6 games, then we're out of here. So now we're playing for our lives. So what's going to happen? We have to see them get a victory, because in order for Luka to maintain his dominance, his presence in the NBA, you're going to have to go ahead and put this team on your shoulders now. Because if not, it's going to always go back to what? The same shit we've been saying. Regular season, he could score, he's getting 60, 70 points, this and that. But what good does it do if your team can't make the playoffs?
For sure. Now,
doesn't do no good.
No, I'm there with you. So if you only got your NBA news and updates from, let's say, Twitter or NBA Instagram, you would see Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic making the other night in Indiana. Luka Doncic threw a pass across the court sheet around 2 guys underneath the hoop that was on a frozen rope to the corner that led to a 3. Kyrie Irving just last night in Atlanta was doing these finishes at the rim against pure shot blockers in Capella, Okongwu, and Collins that no human on earth should be able to finesse their body in the air and put the spin on the ball. And you're like, oh my God, these guys are so talented. And again, those are highlights that make your timeline. But last time I checked, there are north of 100 possessions per game in today's 2023 NBA. And that's just one of them. So while that's cool and you can see the potential and the talent level of those individuals, what you're not seeing when you're refreshing and scrolling your timelines is the 90 times that the Atlanta Hawks or the Charlotte Hornets or whoever the Mavericks have been losing to are getting easy putbacks at the rim against the Mavericks, because they don't have a true center. They don't box out. They don't play defense. They just gave up to the team ranked dead last in the NBA, 30th in points per game. That's the Miami Heat. They didn't even have Bam Adebayo, arguably one of their most important players, and they still gave up 129 points to those guys who couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. And that ultimately comes back to Kyrie and Luka can do these really cool things, but when you don't play defense and you don't close out defensive possessions, allowing a second chance opportunity, you permit them to get easy points while you're asking Luka and Kyrie to be superheroes for 2 straight hours. And they are superheroes, but asking them to do that 50 times just to claw out a victory is asking a lot, Rasheed. So the burden on their shoulders to be above and beyond great during the regular season, we're not even in the playoffs, man. It's a lot to ask. The roster is broken. They can't compete on the interior, and there's so many facets of the game of basketball which they don't check the box for. The most important ones they do with star power, but this should be the epitome of a team game, right?
You want me to tell you this?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to tell you what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are part of the repercussions of this small ball. Because now, if you look at it, Luka was playing the 5 sometimes, and you had, might have been like a Reggie Bullock playing a 4. You know what I'm saying? And we all know he's not a power forward. He's a shooting guard. But with this small ball, he has to play the 4. Luka at the 5. So now they don't have no post players, as you just mentioned. You don't have no rebounding production. Again, blocking out. You know, your steals are not up. This and that. It all is all a cause and effect. It's all a cause and effect. You know, with the small ball, it's exciting. Oh, we getting up all the threes, and look at them going up and down the court. But the effect is the shooting percentages of these teams is some of the worst in NBA history. The no defense, where, as you just mentioned, 129 points in regulation. We're not even talking extra 5 or 10 minutes in a regular OT or double OT. We're talking regulation. Ain't no damn defense out there. And it's not just the Mavericks, though, yo. It's the league the way it is now. You know, they want to see the excitement going back and forth, back and forth. They don't want to see nobody slow that down until the playoffs. You know, that's when guys know that playoff, okay, each possession matters now. But, if you do that shit during the regular season, it gears you for the playoffs. So now come the playoffs, guess what? If we have one of our key guys go out, then I know this dude that's the 6th or 7th man, maybe 8th man coming off the bench. I know he cool. I know he know what to do. He's on point with us as far as anything, defensively traps or, to look out for the defensive traps and, press O. He's in tune with it. And that's what you need. That's what needs to happen. But their main thing, as you mentioned, though, a lot of this revolves around them not having the center. You don't have that one dude who can, as you said, go down there and average getting you them 8, 9, 10 rebounds a game. They don't have it.
There are certainly situations in which small ball, we saw the Mavericks execute it brilliantly against the Utah Jazz in the playoffs. They got Rudy Gobert, the anchor, out of the paint. As a result, they took advantage of his slower foot speed, and they made it rain on top of him from three-point land. The sacrifice, of course, is that you're giving up a little bit of size. You're hoping 3 points is worth more than 2, but if you're not shooting lights out, you better have one hell of a team effort in rebounding and defense. And we're simply just not getting that. Now, as we approach the playoffs, there was a national championship game on the women's side that I wanted to ask you about because, so we've got Caitlin Clark on. The big story is the trash talking, which was occurring at the end of this because Caitlin Clark is out there doing her thing throughout the tournament. And then Angel Reese, I believe is her name, from LSU. She gets the W, and she's rubbing it in Caitlin's face. Now, I already know that we're on the same page. We don't need to even we'd be preaching to the choir that we're both team talk your shit if you've earned the right to talk your shit. Because if you're one of those people they should be showing sportsmanship, that is a miserable lifestyle to choose. Because
that's
you know
the
what?
Child participation trophy.
Oh my God. If you're one of those people, God bless you. But if you're one of those people, you can never really show the touchdown celebration emotion, because it instantly makes you a hypocrite if you are team always be polite, respectful, and show sportsmanship. So it's a very difficult lifestyle to live. I have no interest in doing that. I want to celebrate my W's, and I'm sure Caitlin Clark, being the hooper that she is, if she talks shit, she knows she's got to be able to take it. Now, the conversation amongst the media and on Twitter got very toxic very quickly. I have no interest in discussing those particular what happened there. I'm more curious from you, Sheed, to know, first of all, what you thought about it. And second of all, I mean, you are the sensei of talking shit. I want to know the best examples of you doing a touchdown celebration, or I think she was doing a can't see me or pointing to the ring finger that we don't know about. Did you ever just let someone in your playing days know, I got y'all fucked up? Right to their face in their grill. I told you I gotta have you fucked up, and I got you fucked up, and now you're mine. I want to hear one of those stories, because this certainly sparks the conversation.
Yeah. All right. So the funny shit. I'm with the Pistons. This is my I want to say probably the second year with the Pistons. And we're playing Chicago in Chicago. Scott Skiles the coach. You know, this is when Scott's on his rant. You know, he's doing pretty well in the NBA. You know, he had a successful coaching career in Orlando, and he's trying to turn that Bulls franchise around to a heyday, right? So, you know, he was doing a good job with the pieces they had. So the funny shit. So we playing in the game, and, you know, the Bulls were a good adversary, but it's not like we took them 100% serious as far as threatening us in our division. So, but we knew there were some young, good upstarts, though. We didn't disrespect them, but we just felt as though they weren't as good as us at that time. So we run one play. Boom, I score. Scott Skiles subbing, what's the dude's name? I want to, Nocioni?
Wow, Nocioni like dropped during that's what she'd say. All right.
And he, so Scott Skiles told him to guard me. So, boom, he out there trying to guard me and everything. And so Scott Skiles was like, hey, you know, hit him, do some dirty shit to him to try to get him a tech to get him out the game or whatever, right? So, you know, Nocioni, he's trying to hit me with some elbows and all of this stuff, right? So the ref standing right there, he ain't calling it, but I'm just having to feel, back him down. I turned around and scored, right? Wow. I said, hey, I told they bench, I said, hey, y'all better get him off of me right now. Scott Skiles was like, you know, he made that face. We went down, played defense, came back down the other end. We called the same play, turn 4. Chauncey threw that bitch into me again. So I got the ball. You know, I'm making my move, backing him down, gave him a jump hook. Boom. So I scored like 6 straight buckets in a row on this dude, right? But the last one, I caught it, and somebody from the bench was yelling, what'd they say? Oh, pressure up. Don't let him get the space to shoot the jump shot. I said, yeah. I just held the ball high above my head, turned around and faced him, and just shot right over him, and then looked at their bench. Like, oh, man, talking so much shit to them. I told Scott Skiles, hey, you better not ever put this motherfucker on me again. Ever. Anytime you do, it's going to be curtains for y'all. And, yo, Scott, and from what I heard from one of the guys on the Bulls team, after the game, Scott Skiles went off in the locker room. How you fucking guys gonna let him come in here and do this and talk shit and kick your ass? And I would have punched him in his mouth and da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, oh, yeah, that's how you get cats frustrated. And that's how, but you know what, though, to go back to your original question with Caitlin Clark, when she did it, she had the right to do it. She was busting ass, yo. She was busting ass. And so, yeah, I'm out there having fun with it. Yeah, y'all can't see me right now. You know, and she was right. That South Carolina game, you know, that's when she did it and all of that stuff. Okay. Now coming back to the LSU game when Angel Reese did it, you know, it was the same way. Like, the game was over. Like, you can't see me right now. You know, like what? Like, take a look at it. It's all shit talking. She backed it up. Just like the game before when Caitlin Clark did it, she backed it up. You know what I'm saying? So you can't, everybody has their thing, and you know it's going to be wishy-washy. You got half of the media like, oh, that's so wrong. Angel Reese shouldn't have did that. but then they won't say the same thing like, oh, well, yeah, Caitlin Clark did it, but that was different. That was different. No, both of them shits was during the middle of shit talking when I'm on my game. Like, I'm out here busting y'all ass. And ain't nothing y'all could do about it. Y'all can't see me. What? I'm doing everything. Chest pounding, as the kids do the ice veins. And I'm doing all that shit, yo. Because, that's just a celebration of your hard work. No, it's not being hypocritical or I'm not disrespecting the game. It's all part of it. It's all that little bit of trash talking. And shit talking is always going to be part of it. So right now, Angel Reese got the last word in.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, again, we both agree on it's good for the game too. I mean, it's entertaining as hell, especially when the trash talk is earned as opposed to someone like a Dylan Brooks or a Pat Bev that's just being a fool because that's the way that they are. This trash talk was earned, delivered, and lived up to the moment. And I wish people that were discussing it were the toxicity of the conversation sheet. People are bringing race into it. This is just
and
pure
ain't got nothing to do with that.
I know, man. And it's frustrating because this basketball game earned the right for both players to be talking shit like that. And of course, I just kind of push that aside. But anyone that's played the game knows when it's that competitive and at any level, honestly, when the game is that competitive with those stakes and you have two very outspoken players that are both trying to build a brand for themselves and a platform. This could be the first domino to fall for either Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese in regards to their careers in the WNBA, and it gets them a signature shoe. So it's everything is wrestling, and I wish people, would not take it so seriously because it's entertaining as all hell, and it gave a lot of people a reason that didn't previously watch the women's game to do it now. And we're here talking about it as a segment on our show, and I hope this not only at the women's level, college level, pro level, but also, of course, the NBA too, that this drives content, engagement, viewership, and entertainment above all.
That was a hell of a game right there. I would probably say I got to put that in like the top 5 women's games I ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
Because coming out the door, it looked like Iowa was going to run away with it. But then when old girl got into foul trouble, that's when LSU came back at it, and it was like a heavyweight 15-round fight, an old school 15-round fight.
This is on the women's side. This is what would have happened if Steph Curry lost to Georgetown instead of beating Georgetown in that playoffs. Okay, because Caitlin Clark lost to LSU. Imagine if Georgetown won, but Steph still did his thing. That's what I feel like happened on the women's side. And again, entertainment through the roof. You'll love to see it. So we'll put a bow on that, and we will now move on to the major news that dropped this weekend in regards to the collective bargaining agreement in the NBA has been agreed to by the NBPA, that's the Players Association, as well as Adam Silver and the Board of Governors with the NBA itself. I know Sheet's going to have many thoughts on this, but I like to tell you guys that view this the episode in its entirety. What I like to do is send him a couple of talking points the night before, just to get his, mind thinking and, maybe prepare some answers and or stories. And in this particular rundown, I've got 3 slots dedicated to the collective bargaining agreement. Mainly, again, we came off an episode of discussing that. So the first one, I guess, that I want to start with is, you know what? Let's go from the bottom up. They're letting players promote gambling and smoke weed now. And I know both of these things during your David Stern era career, these would have sent you straight to hell, no purgatory, out of the league, you name it. This gets you blackballed and banned forever. Now, I will say we don't have the specifics yet on what players being allowed to promote gambling. There's no way that LeBron can be like, bet my over on points tonight because I'm going to go out there and shoot a lot. No, they are not going to be allowed to bet on themselves or other teams and stuff. At least I don't know anything that you don't if you're watching this, but my jaw would go to the floor if they allowed players to start betting on their own games. So again, the question back to you, Rasheed, is cannabis is good. Gambling promotion with sportsbooks affiliations and the equivalent of an NBA NIL deal is good. What are your thoughts?
As you just said, we're seeing a new NBA. We're definitely seeing a new NBA. Shit, wow. Like, not only talking about promoting and investing in cannabis in the whole medicinal area, but just think of it. Even back when I was playing, they didn't allow us to be a part of their major sponsor, which was liquor and the beer. We couldn't be a part of that. Now I think LeBron did a great thing with, I think he has like a tequila or a vodka out, one of the two. But, he's self-promoting it and he's trying to get it into these NBA arenas. Hey, I think that's wonderful. That's things that guys should have been doing. We're out here. The reason why we had the book come out years ago, the $40 million Slave, is because it looked at NBA players doing one thing. Y'all just out there to play basketball. Shut up. Don't worry about nothing else. Don't do nothing else. You just go play basketball. We'll handle everything else. Now, no, they're involving the players to be in the business. Like James Brown. Yes, I'm the business, but now I'm going to be the business. So now I can invest, as you said, with the whole little gambling thing. And again, we don't know the ins and outs of what it's going to be, but just the whole notion of it, period, coming from, professional athletes. Then the medicinal, that was only a matter of time. You know what I'm saying? That was only a matter of time, especially after the bubble, because, it's a couple ways you could look at it. You could look at it like, look, all right, when I was playing, they took the weed away, and what happened? You had a whole lot of motherfucking DUIs out there, a whole lot of drunk cats. Now, in the NBA, not saying that the guys don't drink, but I'm pretty sure the percentage of guys who drink in the NBA are way lower than when I was in the NBA. Because now, you got the recreational marijuana. And so they're also finding its medicinal uses, to help with body, to help with concentration, to help with certain things involving that athlete, which is good, which is shit that we was on any damn way. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, okay, you're really legalizing it instead of it becoming a unwritten rule.
So you bring up a good point regarding if you can't smoke weed, some people, to help cure their anxiety, to help their mental, like people would resort to alcohol because that's technically within the rules of, and I won't lose my $1 million paycheck. So they resort to things like alcohol, then they get behind a wheel. And while that's not the right thing to do, I mean, it's not the first time it's happened, and it certainly won't be the last. So it's something that exists. And I assume players were smoking weed when you were playing, and they just said, fuck it, I hope I don't get tested this week. I got to smoke. I want to smoke. And then they do it. And then it's in their system, obviously, for a week or two. And you just hope you don't get piss tested. Or would players go above and beyond to take supplements to try and mask? Because I know they make those too. Would they do anything? Pretty
everything. Much? The cats was doing everything. It was some cats, taking the supplements. Before they really got fine-tuned with the whole piss test, it was like shit. You could have went with, the fake piss bag in your leg and your shorts because you're going into the bathroom stall. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You could have went with that. Hey, I've seen cats do a whole lot of shit. And then it's like one of my theories was when I was doing it in the league was, look, they random the randoms, because you come to a team and out of the 12 players, you only testing 5. All right, so we know that's a 1 random. And then out of those randoms, I think they get randomized again once they get to the facility or whatever, because I know for a fact it was certain cats that the night before test happened, blowing big. Went out there. That next day, we in practice. Here come Piss Man. You go in there. It's like, shit, you ain't got no choice. You caught. You ain't got no choice. But then you don't get that call. If you got a dirty piss test, they'll, call you within like a 48, 72 hour time span. If you don't get that call, you like, damn. And I'm like, I know he was dirty. Like, what? He didn't come up with none. So I was like, okay. And, that made me randomize the randoms. And everybody had their own theories and laws and this and that, doing it back then because, it went from It went from testing once during training camp to testing 3 times to now testing 4 times, and including that it can happen. If your team got put out the playoffs and before the championship is here, you still can get tested. So I'm not sure how the new CBA is going to do it as far as the piss test itself, but man, yeah, I seen guys, fall through the cracks and
Wow.
luck up with that.
Yeah, the enforcement was one thing some players were made an example of throughout time. I'm thinking of J.R. Smith.
Sure.
J.R. Smith was very vocal about, why am I the only one that's getting, and while the entire team, the entire NBA is doing it, I'm the one that's made an example of. He keeps getting suspended for smoking weed, and now we fast forward to today, and it's just like cigarette. I mean, they probably encourage you to smoke marijuana now before tobacco, the way that we're headed. So it was interesting collective bargaining, very progressive clause inserted there in that, in the gambling, and also the percentage increase was another one that stood out to me in terms of the teams can offer their players that are on the roster. For example, someone like Jaylen Brown or Domantas Sabonis are now going to be able to earn, let's call it $10 to $15 million extra, because the extension incentive for a holding team is going up from 120% to 140%. So while a lot of fan bases in small markets were heard complaining that we're going to lose our guy because we don't have enough incentive to prevent him from signing with the Lakers, the Heat, the Knicks, or any of these major markets that they want to move to and be in the big city and or chase a ring in Golden State. Any franchise can offer a significant amount of money more than someone else can in free agency. I don't know if that's technically restricted free agency or what the appropriate term is there. But long story short, it does feel like to me that the goal of this collective bargaining agreement was to continue to add competitive balance to the NBA. With the super teams now, the second apron tax, meaning someone like Steve Ballmer or Joe Lacob, it's a clause designed to target them. Any spender that's willing to spend $1 billion on the Clippers or Warriors, now they are limited in terms of the transactions they can make. No more buyout players. If you want that Boogie Cousins or that John Wall who just got bought out by the Rockets or the Nuggets, and you want him to come at the end of the season and you're in that second apron tax, no more replenishing your death lineup with these stars that have made their money and just want to hop on and go chase a ring. That's gone. So if you form a super team now, Sheed, you can still do it, but the risks are significantly more severe if you face adversity. If Andrew Wiggins leaves the team for 20-something games for personal reasons, you can't just run to the buyout market and replace him and do stuff like that once the new CBA starts. So I just want to get your general thoughts on competitive balance before we move on to the next facets of the CBA.
Yeah, No, I think it's good. It definitely levels the playing ground because obviously throughout NBA, let's just go with the last decade. You have guys that's going to go to where that money is. And who had the money? The big capital teams, the big market teams, the LAs, the New Yorks, the Miamis, the Chicagos, the big market teams. So now with this new CBA, it brings it in for the smaller market teams to make just as much of an impact getting these, big time players or big name players, like a Milwaukee, Giannis was probably like one of the biggest names to come out of Milwaukee since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And don't get me wrong, they've had other great players on the Bucks in that time span. Don't get me wrong, but the way that things are now, Giannis is like a megastar in that franchise. So here it is. That small market lucked up and got big time a key player, and it worked out for him. Let's just say the next Portland is a small market. It helps them out. Same thing with Sacramento.
San Antonio Sheed with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, those were guys that they drafted, were able to retain But for the most part,
Yeah.
we have seen those big stars sometimes say they're not sold on the San Antonio culture or whatever franchise they're with, and they move on to a bigger market.
Go
and
somewhere else. Yep.
Right. So,
and that's what's happening. I mean, it levels the playing ground. It has its advantages and disadvantages, but for the most part, it levels the playing ground for the smaller markets.
And I think there is an opportunity cost in which a majority of the board of governors are willing to take on their shoulders for a couple of seasons. And that opportunity cost is going to be the lost funds that the Lakeups and the Balmers have been paying out to the rest of the governors in the form of luxury tax. Man, do you know if the Warriors would have kept James Wiseman through the trade deadline, for how many times that they have been repeat tax offenders? Wiseman only makes, let's say, $16, $17 million per year. But because they are in that luxury tax and offenders for so many different seasons, the multiplier would mean that having Wiseman on the roster actually equates to $100 million because it all goes into the pool, which gets taxed.
Yeah.
So the Lakeups of the world and the Balmers, again, have been willing to pay that tax to form these super teams. Now, with the new collective bargaining agreement, it's giving incentive for you to no longer be a second apron luxury tax and to get back underneath it. And the board of governors that are not like Lakeup and Balmer have been receiving payouts from these guys as a luxury for going above the salary cap. That's why it's called luxury tax. They, in this theory, in this example that I'm describing to you, they no longer will be receiving those payments for millions of dollars. However, because the NBA broadcast rights deal is coming up in the summer of 2024 or 2025, and it is going to rain a gazillion dollars on top of these governors because Disney, Turner, Amazon, Apple, they're going to pay $1 trillion collective dollars to broadcast the NBA. So I bet these board of governors are thinking long term that, yes, we no longer will cash the checks from Balmer and Lakeup because we know in 3 years we're going to make up for that and more through the broadcast rights deals, and we get competitive balance and the ability to re-sign our players. So they gave up the short-term money, I think, to pursue the long-term. Now, that's on the governor's side, and I want to get to the last collective bargaining point or just note, fact that came out from the weekend was in regards to individual player awards, which now has a stipulation, as we have discussed load management and whatever throughout this season and this show, or this specific episode, that now there is a rule in place that you have to play 65 of the 82 games to qualify for things like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA. There is a world now, because we saw Drew Holiday do it just a season or two ago, where he stepped onto the floor, he took a foul, he played 4 seconds of basketball, and then went back to the bench. And he did that because he got a $250,000 bonus, or it was $225,000 bonus for appearances. Yep. So now people are starting to think, all right, let's just use Joel Embiid as an example, who traditionally does not play the entire season. If he's at 59 games played with 10 games remaining in the season and the Sixers have the 1 seed locked up, is there a world that he plays 2 to 3 of those 10 remaining games hard and normal, and the other 5 or 6 or whatever number he needs to get to the 65 mark, he's going out there and doing the Drew Holiday of just grabbing a jersey, going back to the bench to get to the 65. So now we open up this whole world of bending the rule book and manipulating the law, even though they're technically within it by doing that. Is that going to influence the way that voters see, like Embiid spent the last 10 games just punching the time clock and getting to the number and cooking the books? Will that affect the way that voting is done? And from a player standpoint, Sheet, if I told you needed 65 games out of the 82 and you were legitimately hurt, not load managed, if you busted your foot or you blew out your knee and you hustled back and you still were going to fall short, how would that make you feel?
Man, it's the same. To be honest, it's just how it was back when I was playing, because you have incentives already. You have incentives in your contracts. If you appear in this amount of games, you get this amount of money. then with your sneaker endorsement, if you appear in this amount of games or an all-star game or you make the finals, you get this amount of money. It's always been endorsements involved in there. But to go back to your question, they should have been doing that shit anyway. That should have been happening because especially with all this load management shit, when guys is not really hurt and they taking like a week, 2 weeks off in the middle of the season and it's not all-star break, that's the type of shit that hurts your team. So now, this is what that one specific rule, new rule in the CBA, this is what's going to happen with it. Either guys going to stop bitching and come back from these injuries. How the hell are you going to be out for 2.5 weeks just with a twisted ankle? Like, come on. So now, okay, you still can sit out, but I guarantee you're going to see a lot of guys come back and play now. Now, in order for me to get paid or, to be considered for a certain position, the MVP or the defensive player, whatever the case may be, I got to play a certain amount of games. That's evident anyway. That, to me, that's really nothing new. Like, because just think about it. That's only going to make you better. All right, if I'm sitting up here and I'm playing in 75 out of the 82 games, I'm on point. I'm in a good wheel. But if I'm slopping and slacking and I only played 55 or 60 games, then I'm not on point with my craft. You know what I'm saying? So now, what are you going to do? Get the fuck out there and you going to play and make sure that you play them games. And you are right when you said you did have guys back then that would just, check into that game to get this bonus or that bonus. Also, you had coaches and GMs who would hold you back from shit like that. Mm-hmm. Like, all right, shit, we got to pay him an extra $300,000 if he play in like 6 consecutive games. Well, you can play in 5 of them games. That 6th game, it's going to be something. Coach want to try this or that, He going to get the call from upstairs. So those incentives have always been in the game. But now I think they're just putting more of a spotlight on it with this whole 65 because it ties into this whole shit that they started with this load management.
So there's 2 follow-up points / questions I want to ask and address with you. The first of which is, this is not really going to get exposed and or become a thing until it actually happens. But it may, let's say, starting next year. I'm just going to name a player that is on the fringe of 3rd team All-NBA. I'm thinking of De'Aaron Fox with the Sacramento Kings. Let's say next year under the new CBA that he gets load managed the way that we're doing it now, where he has taken a couple of games off to preserve his health. Now that the Kings are good, they're looking forward to moving up in the playoffs and have championship aspirations. So he misses, let's call it 10 games for the first 3 quarters of the season. He's in line to get to his 65 game appearance mark. But March 5th, picking random dates here, happens. And De'Aaron Fox just busted he has a grade 3, grade 2 ankle sprain that's now going to keep him out for the entire month. And this load management plan that he was on to preserve his health is now working against him because because he used those load management games up. That's the equivalent of PTO at your job. You used all your PTO and sick days. And now that you're actually sick, you're not going to be appearing, and as a result, De'Aaron Fox can now not qualify for 3rd team All-NBA for a contract like his that he's in I think the first one after his rookie. I have to imagine it's got some big time. If you make All-NBA incentives, it's worth a shit ton of money. So now you're going to have, my opinion, I'm predicting the future here, that there may be some, not mistrust, but second guessing of organizational load management, because load management starts at the top. It's not always with the players. And if they tell you, we want to load manage you on the second leg of a road back-to-back, De'Aaron Fox, I'm thinking twice about it. Like, man, you're cutting it close. If I get hurt and I miss a month, I'm not going to get my gargantuan paycheck I think I'm in line for all NBA. Then you're going to start to see the conversation between players and front offices get spilled out into the public. There may be some resentment there because that new rule exists now. These are things that I think about And it hasn't happened yet, but it might. It might. And then the second, now this is going to be a question to you, is if you go into the game sheet and you play 5 seconds and you take a foul and you go sit back on the bench and you cook the books with appearances, you know what that shit does to your averages? 0. You're 25 points per game just became 22 points per game. You do it again, now you're down to 21 points per game. And my question to you is, back when you were playing, the incentives were appearances, it sounds like, as well as all-star nominations. But did you or anyone else have per game points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, incentives out there? The answer in today is most players do not. But I'm curious if you had it more back then.
Yeah, we did. We did, because I think with contracts, the owners and GMs like knew that individual player. Like, okay, we're going to use Dennis Rodman, for example. We all know that he was a ferocious rebounder, one of the top rebounders to ever play in this game. But so in his contract, it would go, okay, if let's just say he had to get like 3 consecutive games with 12 or more rebounds, and that's going to put him in line to do this and do that. Well, those are going to be his incentives geared towards him to one, make the team better. Mm-hmm. They're not going to add no incentives like, okay, Robin, we see you averaging, 15 rebounds. Well, we want you to average 15 points with that, and to be part of your incentive to do this. No, they're not going to do that, because he's not a scorer. He's a defensive guy. He's a rebounder. So, i.e., let's use the late, great Crazy 8, Kobe. We all know Kobe from day one when he was in high school. He was what? A scorer. So now here it is. You're going to put in that contract. Okay, Kobe, if you get 5,000 points this season, or, if you hit a certain percentage of your threes and your twos, then, you'll get $500,000 and this and that. The incentives pretty much go towards that player, and their game. They usually don't put those incentives in there for shit that they know and you can't do. Mm-hmm. So it works. It works both ways. It works both ways. It gives the player the incentive, like, all right, this is something that I know I can do. I know I'm good at. I know I can get some rebounds. I know I can average 12 rebounds. I go out here and average 12 rebounds for 82 games. Shit, that's an extra $1 million. Those are all little pocket incentives that's going to cause that player to push harder if you really want it. And like you said, in today's contracts, it's most of them aren't like that. They don't have those either, rebounding incentives, point percentage, steals, or anything of that nature. Something that that particular player is great in.
And this, how we transmit this information to the public, this is also the way my mind works, and how important communication is. Because there are now, in the year 2023, Sheed, there are Underdog, for example, the company that sponsors our show here. We produce information with starting. The NBA makes available who's starting that night well in advance, so that potential fans attending the game and or gamblers and or fantasy players, everyone that engages with the product, is told the information that De'Aaron Fox is starting tonight for the Sacramento Kings. But by them releasing he's in the starting lineup, there is no little asterisk that says, oh, by the way, he's coming out after 5 seconds. So you see, oh, Fox is playing tonight. Let's go to the game. This is not one of those load management. And then he gets yanked down. You get the rug pulled out on you. I'd be like, what the fuck? I mean, they better educate their audience well in advance, because I don't want that rug pull to affect them the same way that I paid all this money to see Steph Curry, and then he load managed, and now I'm sitting here just grumpy for 2.5 hours. That's how you lose fans. And I would have personally liked to see that 65 appearance rule maybe change the currency of it to minutes played, because that will prevent you from just doing the whole play 2 seconds, get to a certain amount of minutes on average. 65 times 20 something minutes per game equals you got to play this many minutes per season. to qualify for these things. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think there's a perfect answer. I like the idea of it, but the execution and education will be crucial. And to hear a former player be talking about incentives, and still it sounds like the two of us, it's still very much up in the air. We don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing just yet, but
we'll find out.
They're trying to clog the drain of load management. I just don't know if they put too much toilet paper in and now I got to plunge it out, right? We're not there yet, but we'll get an answer at some point. All right. We like to end every episode, as you guys know by now, by asking Rasheed to talk about education. We have him preach to you about a player that either flew under the radar or kids these days may not know about. And we call the segment Respect the Game. And you were bringing up Milwaukee there for a second, that they had some great players. I'm like, ooh, is that a tease that Rasheed Wallace is about to talk about Michael Redd or Ray Allen? And I'm just thinking of Glenn the Junkyard Dog Robinson. Like, there are some good names that came out of Milwaukee. And without further ado, let's do Respect the Game. Who is today's player, Rasheed?
Today's player in Respect the Game is Clyde, the Glide, Drexler. So, Clyde Drexler, part of Phi Slamma Jamma, University of Houston. He played with Akeem the Dream Olajuwon down there, and they won a NCAA title with the what is their mascot?
Cougars.
The Houston Cougars. Damn, I'm slipping. But Clyde was a formidable foe in the NBA to a lot of shooting guards like Mike Jordan. Whenever Mike Jordan and Clyde Drexler won at it, Mike had to respect him. Now, granted, Clyde Drexler couldn't shoot as good as Mike, but he was just as athletic. Clyde Drexler won a title down in Houston when he reteamed with Akeem Olajuwon, and they ended up being the champs down there. I think it was 95. 95, 95 or 96, one of the two. And to me, Clyde Drexler has, in my opinion, the best in-game dunk ever. Now, we've seen a lot of great in-game dunks. We've seen Vince Carter jump over a dude that's 7'2". We've seen Sean Kemp do a whole lot of his windmill tricks and do this and that and dunk it. But Clyde Drexler has the best in-game dunk. He jumped from the foul line. Jumped from the foul line like it was a dunk contest, and hence his nickname, the Glide. He was just up there in the air gliding. Athletic, a great guy. Great. I had the pleasure to meet him and be neighbors with him, actually, when I was playing in Portland. He lived 2-3 doors down from me. But great guy, a great basketball mind, which is, I'm surprised he never really got into coaching like that, full-fledged. He got his feet wet a little bit. But Clyde Drexler, man, today's Respect the Game player. And, man, hey, let me tell you, that was a hell of a respect. Because that dude right there, hey, ask Michael Jordan. I'm pretty sure y'all seen some memes out there now. But I saw one somebody asked Michael Jordan about Clyde Drexler, and, Mike gave his opinion on it. Like, man, Clyde Drexler, he wasn't no chump.
That's as big of a compliment as you will get from Michael Jordan. That if he says he wasn't a chump. Yeah. He usually brings out the iPad when Gary Payton is saying, I slowed him down. I made Mike tired. Mike he'll just laugh in your face. And that's his notoriety. But Clyde the Glide in that Trailblazers team, gave the Bulls everything that they could ask for. I think it was 92, 91 or something, whenever that was. Yep. But he eventually goes to Houston, plays alongside Hakeem, and you don't get the name the Glide. Yeah, the Glide, one of those, you're known for a nickname before you are your last name. You got to be pretty damn good for that. And Clyde checks that box. So,
and y'all make sure y'all look him up too. When he was at the University of Houston, that's when he got a whole lot of his more infamous dunks. Y'all check him out.
Clyde the Glide Drexler, today's Respect the Game from Rasheed Wallace. And on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation and this episode. We're approaching the playoffs, and if you thought there was
nitty-gritty,
not a shortage of things to talk about, there will be as we approach Rasheed's favorite, the play-in tournament, and eventually the playoffs themselves. We'll be here to talk about it all as always. So thank you guys for joining us. We will see you on the timeline.
Deuces.